You are in Barbados, Neville. Those 4 words changed everything. December 1933. My student stood before me, ticket in hand for a ship that would sail in 2 hours, a ship he could not board because he had no money for passage. The ticket was 3rd class. The price was $50 he did not possess. "I am not in Barbados," he protested. "I am standing here with you in New York, and I have no way to pay for this passage." I turned from him. The conversation was finished. "You are in Barbados. What happened in the next 2 hours proves what I am about to tell you now. Once you know it is already done, waiting becomes not just impossible, but nonsensical. You do not wait for what you already have. You believe you are waiting. This is the poison in your practice, this idea that there is time between your assumption and its appearance, that you must endure some period of faith while reality catches up to your imagination. You treat the law like a mail-order catalog. Place your request, then check the tracking number daily. But waiting implies separation. It implies your desire exists somewhere else, moving toward you across time and space. This is the thinking of one who has not understood what Neville finally grasped that December night. You have been practicing patience when you should be practicing possession. Let me tell you what happened after I dismissed Neville that night. He left my apartment on West 72nd Street, furious. Here was his teacher, the man he had studied with for 3 years, telling him something impossible while he held evidence to the contrary in his hand. But as he walked toward the dock, something shifted. My certainty had disturbed him, not my words, my complete absence of doubt. I had not said you will be in Barbados. I had not said trust that you will go. I had used the present tense as though describing the color of his coat. Within 1 hour, he encountered his brother Victor on the street, a brother he had not seen in months. Within 90 minutes, that brother had given him $50. Within 2 hours, he was aboard the ship. But here is what you must understand. I did not manifest his passage. I simply refused to see anything other than what was already done. The law operates on a principle Neville called the Sabbath, not the day of rest, but the state of rest. It is the mental stillness wherein you cease all effort because the work is already complete. Listen carefully. Creation is finished. Everything you could ever desire already exists in what Neville termed the dimensionally larger world. You do not create anything. You select a state and occupy it. When you truly occupy a state, when you know yourself to be what you desire to be, waiting becomes impossible because there is nothing to wait for. You cannot wait for yourself to be what you already are. This is why I told Neville he was in Barbados while he stood in my apartment. I was not speaking of his future. I was acknowledging his present state, the only state that matters to consciousness. And the mechanism is this. Consciousness is the only reality. What you are conscious of being, you are, not will be, are. The delay you experience is not the time it takes for your desire to manifest. It is the time it takes for you to accept what already is. Here is what no one will tell you. The moment you feel anxious about when or how something will happen, you have abandoned the state. The law recognizes only one thing, your state of consciousness. When you occupy the state of having, there is a peculiar stillness, not the stillness of resignation or suppression, but the stillness of possession. It is the same stillness you feel right now about things you already have. Do you check daily to see if your name is still your name? Do you worry that your past might unhappen? No, because these are finished facts in your consciousness. When Neville boarded that ship, he told me later, the strangest feeling overcame him. It was not excitement or relief. It was recognition, as though he was simply catching up to where he had always been. This is the test. If you can still wait, it is not done in consciousness. The bridge of incidents that Neville wrote about, that series of events leading to manifestation, these are not the creation of your desire. They are the world conforming to what you have already accepted as true. That night in 1933, Victor did not suddenly decide to give his brother money. The money did not materialize from nothing. The entire sequence was the world rearranging itself to match what I had seen. Neville in Barbados. This is why impatience is impossible when you understand the law. You do not wait for the world to create. You watch the world conform, and watching is not waiting. It is observing what must happen happening. Every moment you spend wondering when or how is a moment you spend outside the state, and the law can only give you what you are, not what you want to be. I gave Neville opera tickets once, 5th row center. The performance was in 2 hours, and he had committed to take a lady who expected such seats. But when he saw they were for a different opera entirely, not the one she wanted to see, he panicked. "These are not the right tickets," he said. "They are the right tickets," I replied, and returned to my book. He left my apartment in distress, but my certainty had done something. It had made his doubt impossible to maintain. Within an hour, he had exchanged those tickets for the exact seats to the exact opera she desired. The 5th row center. The delay was never in the tickets. It was in his acceptance of which tickets he held. We have arrived at the threshold. What I have told you so far about the Sabbath state, about possession replacing patience, this is true. But it is only the first movement in a 4-part sequence that must be performed in order. Listen, most of you are trying to occupy the end before you have cleared the beginning. You are trying to feel possession while your subconscious still holds the record of lack from this very day. There are 4 movements. Revision, clearing today's record of evidence against your desire. Correction of inner speech, the silent voice that instructs the subconscious all day. Precise scene construction, not visualization, but the building of a touchable moment, of falling asleep inside the state, the transfer itself when consciousness crosses over. You cannot skip to the 4th movement. It would be like trying to plant seeds in unprepared soil. You have been doing one of these, perhaps 2, and you have been wondering why the feeling fades by morning. It fades because the sequence was never completed. The subconscious received a partial instruction, and partial instructions produce partial results. I have prepared something for you, a written guide called Rewrite Tonight. It contains the full revision protocol, the first movement, exactly as I taught it to Neville before I taught him anything else. Not a summary of what I have said here, but the complete 3-minute pre-sleep process that shows you how to select the 3 moments from today that are poisoning your sleep, how to revise each one so the subconscious carries a clean record into the night, and how to feel the clearing that makes every other technique actually reach the deeper mind. This is free. It is immediate. And it is the foundation everything else depends on. And for those ready to go beyond the clearing, who want the full 4-part sequence all 7 nights, guided step by step in the order I originally gave it to Neville. That exists too. You will see it after you receive the guide, but do not think about that now. Start with the clearing. Start tonight. Comment the word reset below this video. Not as a comment, as a declaration. You are done practicing in the wrong order. You are done trying to feel the end while the beginning remains polluted. Comment reset, and I will send you the guide personally. Tonight, before you sleep, I want you to practice what Neville called the Sabbath moment. This is not visualization. This is not affirmation. This is assuming the stillness of possession. As you enter the drowsy state, what Neville termed the state akin to sleep, bring to mind one simple phrase: it is finished. But here is the key. Do not say it as a hope or command. Say it as you would say the sun rose this morning, as a fact requiring no emotion, no force, no conviction. It simply is. Feel the stillness that comes with this recognition, not the excitement of anticipation, but the quiet of completion. Let that stillness be your last sensation before sleep. What you are doing is matching the frequency of having, and in that state, sleep will carry you across the bridge from wanting to being. The full version of this practice, as with a complete revision protocol that must come first, is in the guide I mentioned. But even this fragment, done with understanding, will show you the difference between waiting and knowing. I want to tell you about something Neville discovered after months of practicing what I taught him. He came to me one evening and said something remarkable. "Abdullah, I no longer want what I have been assuming. I simply am it. The wanting has stopped." This was his graduation. You see, desire itself is evidence of separation. When you truly occupy a state, desire dissolves into being. You do not want to be wealthy when you know yourself wealthy. You do not want to be loved when you know yourself loved. You simply are, and the isness expresses itself in your world. This is why the law responds so powerfully to those who have moved beyond desire into assumption. The universe recognizes only what you know yourself to be. And when you know yourself to be something, when you have moved beyond wanting it into being it, the outer world has no choice but to conform. But the movement from wanting to being requires understanding something most students miss entirely. It requires understanding the difference between practicing for results and practicing from results. When you practice for results, you are still acknowledging separation between you and your desire. When you practice from results, you are expressing what you already are. This shift in perspective changes everything about how you relate to your techniques. They are no longer attempts to get something. They become expressions of what you already have. When Neville would enter his imaginal scene of being in Barbados, he was not trying to create the experience of being there. He was expressing the fact that he was already there. This is why my certainty was so powerful that night. I was not hoping he would reach Barbados. I was acknowledging where he already was in consciousness. You must understand, everything you have ever desired, you have desired because consciousness knows it already possesses it. Desire is not the absence of something. It is consciousness recognizing what it is, what it has always been. Your desire for wealth is wealth knowing itself. Your desire for love is love knowing itself. Your desire for freedom is freedom knowing itself. This is why Neville wrote, "To desire a state is to have it." He was not speaking metaphorically. He was stating the literal truth about the nature of consciousness and desire. When consciousness desires something, it is because consciousness is already that thing, recognizing itself. But here is where most students lose their way. They think the work is to convince consciousness that it has something it does not have. This is impossible. Consciousness cannot be convinced of a lie. The work is to recognize what consciousness already knows, to accept what consciousness already is. When you do your imaginal work tonight, when you enter that drowsy state and assume your desire fulfilled, you are not creating anything new. You are recognizing something that has always been true. You are not becoming what you desire. You are accepting what you are. This acceptance is not passive. It is the most active thing consciousness can do. For in accepting what it is, consciousness expresses itself in form. In recognizing what it possesses, consciousness manifests possession. In acknowledging its own nature, consciousness becomes visible to itself as its world. The delay you think you are experiencing, the silence, the absence of movement, this is not the universe testing your faith. This is not a cosmic processing time. This is you, learning to hold a state without evidence. Every master of this law went through the same initiation, the moment where nothing in the world confirms what you know to be true inside. This is not punishment. This is the birth of true power. For once you can hold your knowing despite appearances, you become cause rather than effect. The signs you seek are not coming to you. You are coming to them, and that journey is measured not in time, but in the depth of your acceptance. When you see it, and you will remember this moment as the turning point, not when it manifested, but when you stopped waiting for it to. Next time, I will tell you about the night Neville stopped asking, and why the end of desire is the beginning of having. There is a state beyond wanting that he discovered, and it changes everything about how the law responds to you.